All right, so I got this little view, this little project I set up for kind of my mock-up of what you guys are working on, so I can kind of see some of the problems you might be dealing with. Um, I've got my building set up. I've got it facing the right direction because that's going to matter when we start to render sunlight. So these windows, these double glass windows right here, that curtain wall, I didn't add the doors, but you kind of get the idea. That's facing east, same direction that our school is facing. So that's going to give kind of a realistic view of what our light should look like as it comes into this building. So I opened up this wall. There is a wall there. It's just not shown in this view because I don't want there to be light or sunlight coming in through this way. I just want to get a good rendering of what it's going to look like over here. So I've got a couple good camera views set up here. And I want you to try to find good strategic angles for your setup. And I've got my lights placed. I've got windows up here, which is pretty accurate. It's pretty close, anyways, to what we have in our atrium. Lights up on top. Um, that's one of the things I like least about this program is that you never know how to apply these lights. They, depending on what kind of light they are, they're only going to apply to certain surfaces and doing it in certain views. So some of these I had to go in and add into a 3D view, which is kind of weird and kind of clumsy feeling. So I've rotated these. These were typically vertical and turned them horizontal, kind of like what we have. And so what I want to do is get a good rendering, a good view of what this should look like now. So if I go to down here, show rendering dialog, I'll click on that. And right now it's just going to show, I'm going to do interior. We have light and sun light that should be showing. So I'm going to do sun and artificial interior. I have the sun coming from the top right. You can change that here if you wanted to, or change the angle of the sun if you wanted to do that. Artificial lights, when you click on that, I have all my lights show up here. It's a lot of lights. And I think some of those don't exist anymore. I probably deleted some. These up here, ones is as high as you can make your lights go. So 0 to 1 is the range, and it's either on or off, basically. Your background, you can have the sky showing no clouds, few clouds, whatever, certain color, an image if you want to throw an image in the background. I'm just going to go like with the look is if there were few clouds in the sky. And so I'm going to have it set to draft for right now, and I'm going to click render and see what this looks like. It's going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to be pixely for a while, and it's draft. So I just want to get a good look of what is showing, what's not showing. And so I can see here that these lights are on. I'm getting light from those skylights up there on the top side. I'm getting light from up here. So there's some things I can change. I can adjust the exposure. If that's too bright, then you can adjust the exposure here and you can make it darker or brighter, however you feel it needs to be changed. I also notice that these lights up here don't appear to be on. And so that could be a problem because I want it to look as accurate as possible. So something I can do for that is I'm going to make sure that those lights are not actually on and that the sunlight is not just drowning them out. So if I go back in here to my rendering view, I'm going to turn off the sun, just do artificial lights only, and see what that looks like. And so when I go to render that, let's see what this looks like now. A little bit darker scene. It's like it's nighttime now. I've got lights showing on the back wall, I can tell already. These lights up here don't appear to be on, but notice over here in the window, I can see that the light, the reflections of the light, and the effects of the light are showing up in the actual scene. They're just not showing up here. And so that's kind of weird. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to select one of these lights. You might have the same kind of problem. For that particular light, I'm going to scroll down, and this is where you can change how much wattage, how bright do you want that light to be. It's 65 watts, which is probably fine. Those lights aren't too bright up there. But what I notice here, it says emit shape visible in rendering. So that means nothing is showing up. This box is not checked by default. So I'm going to check it, hit apply, okay, and I'm going to render that again to see what that looks like. Artificial only again, just to check. And waiting. And oh, there we go. All right. So here's what it looks like. Nighttime, got the lights on. If I feel it's too dark, I can go in there again, select the light, change the brightness of it, and so on. So this is a good example of how you can change those lights. Now, if I want to check it out with sun and artificial, I'm going to adjust the exposure a little bit, maybe make it a little bit darker. Whoa, that jumps really fast. There's no in between. There we go. Apply that. Okay, and render this out. Let's see what this looks like now. Kind of tones down the brightness a little bit. I can see the lights are now on up on top. I can see the lights are on the walls. So these don't seem as bright now because the sunlight is coming in, kind of overexposes it a little bit. So you can kind of mess around with this as well. Some of the other things here, white point. So these very white, brightest parts of your rendering, if that seems too cold, too warm, you can change it here. Saturation is basically the colors. If you want it to be more vibrant and intense, change that. Shadows, you can kind of lighten the shadows, darken them. Same thing with highlights. And you can also change this to make it darker or brighter, however you feel you need to change it. So check that out and get some good renderings of your light. Once you get a good setting that you enjoy, then change this up here and go for best renderings for your different views. Really check over it and make sure that you're getting it as accurate as possible as far as your lights and the effects that you're getting from your lights and the sunlight as well. So go ahead and give this a try, and good luck. Let me know if you have any problems.